is Histories and Mysteries. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be tackling the Murdoch story that's in the news right now. And it's going to be a two-parter because there's just so much information about it. And I am going to be talking about Blanche Monnier.
Ooh, and if you hear a little voice in the background, it's my daughter.
Yes, she
Hanging
is
out with
joining
me.
us.
Okay. Yeah, so I wanted to do the Murdoch case, and I honestly didn't know anything about it, even though I lived in the area that this all takes place. And I didn't realize like how much went into this story.
I don't know anything about it.
Okay, there's some twists. Oh,
I saw it involve children and I just shied away. So,
um, no, I mean it involves a 22-year-old
oh, okay.
and then like
I
an
just saw
18
like,
year old,
oh,
not like little kids.
I don't know. It's okay. Anyways,
Yeah, so a couple things too before I get started. Um, the name is spelled Murdaugh, but they
wouldn't
pronounce
that
it,
be,
yeah, but they pronounce it Murdoch with a K.
oh, not Murdaugh?
No,
Oh.
that's what I thought too, but everybody said Murdoch.
Oh.
And then the dad's name is Alec, like Alec, but he spells it Alex, but they call him Alec. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know, it's weird. But I think that's all the weird names. But so when I first started doing this case, I pulled up the New York Times, and this was the tagline for it: the killing of a mother and son, millions of dollars in stolen funds, fresh investigations into a fatal boat crash, and a housekeeper's deadly fall. Like
Holy
that all
crap.
plays into it. Yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, so I got my sources from the New York Times, Washington Post. I forgot to write them down. Um, I'll get them next week because I forgot to
It's
write them.
okay. You pulled a Jessica. It's fine.
I did. But I also did start watching. Netflix just released a 3-part series called The Murdoch Family. Really good. If you want to
Oh,
take a look at
good.
that, it's really good. But going into this, Jessica, I don't know if you know much about the South in America.
I
Um,
just know that they're racist.
well, yeah, there's that. But there's also a lot of old money there. And there's what they call the good old boys club, and that's no different for the low country in South Carolina. It's called the low country, but it's like Charleston, Beaufort, that whole area. Kind of the old money there kind of controls a lot. They don't
That
really
makes
always,
sense.
yeah, they don't really always have to, answer to the law like other people do. So going into this, the Murdochs are extremely wealthy family. They have old money. They've been there forever. So keep that in mind as we go through the story. All right. So June 7th, 2021, Alec Murdoch, a prominent lawyer whose dad, grandfather, and great grandfather were all prosecutors in this area. So long line of lawyers. Called 911 to report that he had found the bodies of his wife, Margaret, 52, and his son, Paul, 22, by the dog kennels on his hunting property.
Oh,
He said, my wife and child have been shot badly. Neither of them is moving. I've been up to it now. It's bad. And the dispatcher kind of asked him, like, you know, is there anybody around? Did you see anything? And he said, no, I've been gone. I just came back. His whole family had been staying at the family's hunting lodge in Islandton, South Carolina when this happened. And when investigators pulled up to the scene, they were greeted by a distraught Alec Murdoch. He told them where he had found his wife and son. Police found the bodies, both with bullet wounds, right where Alex said they would be. They were both unfortunately dead. Maggie had been shot in the back and the chest and looked like she had been running away from the position of her body. And Paul was shot once in the chest and once in like the neck slash head area.
Yeah, like the
Um,
nape.
yeah, yeah. But they said it was the one of the interviewers, people that are getting interviewed, said that like he was barely recognizable. So I think it did quite a bit of damage to his face. Um,
Great.
upon examination, it was determined that the two died somewhere between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. that night, most likely around 9 p.m.
So why were they out in the bush?
I don't know. We'll get to
Okay.
that. So Alex said that he woke up from a nap around 7:31 p.m. He didn't see his wife or Paul, Maggie or Paul. They said that the property was really big, so he wasn't sure if they were there or not. Like, it's not like he woke up and there was like three rooms in the house, you know, where he'd be like, oh no, they're definitely not here. So he just shot them both a text at about 8:05 p.m. and said, I'm going to check on mom and dad. His mom and dad were both pretty sick. His mom had dementia and his dad's health was like not well. So he went to check on them. He got back from the visit around 10:20 p.m., which is when he discovered his wife and son. As the investigation starts, police find out that Paul was receiving threats, but none that his family thought were like super credible. Um, but Jessica, why would he be receiving death threats, you ask? Great question.
Because he's a dick.
Well, that. Um, and to answer that, we need to talk about Mallory Beach back on February 4th, 2019. So
Can I
this was,
just can I just say something?
of course.
So does Mara. Um, I don't remember what I was gonna say. I don't remember.
Okay, well, if you think of it, let me know.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry.
All right, so this happened 2 years prior to Paul being shot.
Yes, 2019.
Yes.
Okay.
So that night, Paul, Mallory, several other friends will kind of get to know their names as we go.
Oh,
Yes.
is this a solved case?
Which one?
The one you're doing?
Like the whole thing? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. That was my question.
Okay, yes. Yeah, well, since you don't know, I'm not gonna say it, but been
Okay,
in
no,
this.
that's fine. I'm assuming it's the dude, the husband. I'm assuming.
I mean, it's all
Yeah,
in the news. He
yeah.
just had his trial, so
Well, I didn't know.
oh,
I'm just
well,
assuming it
now
was
you
him.
know.
So thanks for spoiling it.
Well, don't worry, there's a lot of other stuff going on in here. So
Okay, cool. Let's go.
so that night, Paul and several of his other friends went to a friend's oyster roast, which is pretty common down in the low country. People do that all the time. And then they went bar hopping through Beaufort. Now, Jessica, I have been to Beaufort many times. I dated a guy who lived there. He was a Marine, and that's where the Marine um, boot camp is on Paris Island. And he worked there as like I don't even know what he did. But anyway, so I've been there many times. When when this resource, the news article said bar hopping, I was like, no, they went to like one bar and called it a day because there's not a lot of bars there. Beaufort is very small.
Mhm.
There's like a couple bars maybe. Every time my ex and I went there, it was always like a ghost town. Like there was, I don't know, maybe we went at the wrong time of the year, maybe, but
Like, have you ever been bar hopping?
me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I haven't.
Oh.
I usually just go, we like usually just went to one place. Well, that's a lie. We did if if I've ever been bar hopping, it was only like two bars.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Like a
I've
bar
been
to
bar
a club
hopping.
or a club back to a bar. Like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. I've never been to like boop boop boop.
I have. It's sometimes it hits okay. Sometimes it can, like, if you have to wait, then you like lose your buzz and then you have to like start all over and then it just
Yeah.
kind of like ruins everything. But
Yeah.
anyway, they shouldn't have been drinking. Well, Paul shouldn't have been drinking because he was driving a freaking boat. Um, but Paul was getting wasted. They said at the oyster roast he was chugging beer, you know, where they do the funnel with like the tube.
Yeah.
He was doing
Ne
that.
Never done that either.
I don't think I've done that. I can't chug very well.
No.
And as the night started to get later and later and colder, several people said, like, hey, probably not a good idea to take the boat back. Like, we can give you a ride, or you know, you can just stay here. But they were all teenagers, you know, like nothing bad's gonna happen to them. They're teenagers, you know, they don't think that way. They do in hindsight now. I mean, they've interviewed them all and you know, they regret getting back in that boat with Paul, but like when you're a teenager, you think you're indestructible, you know?
Oh yeah.
Um, so they decided to leave the oyster roast, and then Paul and Connor wanted to stop at the boat or at the bar in Beaufort, but no one else wanted to. But apparently, you don't really say no to the Murdochs, including Paul. So they went. They said that Mallory and Anthony, who were dating, very new, um, didn't want to go. So they just stayed on by the dock. So Beaufort has this really pretty walkway right on the water, and it's got like benches and swings and stuff. You don't.
Like it's called a boardwalk.
Yeah, yeah, but there's no like shops on it or anything.
It doesn't have to be shops to be a boardwalk.
I don't know. Whenever people say boardwalk, I think of like shops. I don't know.
Oh, no, we have one back home and it's we don't have shops.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they
Like
have a
there's a
boardwalk.
yeah.
It's really cute. They got like little swings on it, like not like kid swings, you know, like big
Yeah.
wooden swings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I sat on those many a night with my ex.
Oh, nice.
He was a good guy, but anyway, he had just gotten divorced, so he was not in the right mind. Didn't work out, but good guy.
That's fair.
He had just gotten divorced from a blonde named Ashley, too, by the way.
Love that.
Okay, so uh Mallory and Anthony stayed on the swings, and you know, they were in that new like honeymoon phase, just started dating, so they were just kind of having like a little romantic time, and only Paul and Connor went to the bar. The rest of them just kind of hung out and waited for them. So when they got back, they said that Paul was like annihilated, like so drunk. And the friends were like, hey, let someone else drive. Like, you're too drunk to be driving. And he was like, no, 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 I got this. This is my boat. I'm driving my boat. Blah, 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 blah. And when they got in the boat, one friend said that he was driving terrifyingly. Like, she used the word terrifying. And everyone was yelling at everyone. Apparently, like, he was driving in circles and like not driving, you know, where they needed to go. So everybody was mad and like probably all a little drunk, and they're cold and they're tired, and everybody's just kind of yelling at everybody. um and they said Paul would leave the wheel, like he'd just walk away, and Connor would have to go up and like correct the boat so they didn't crash. um One of his friends yelled at Paul that if he wasn't going to let anyone else drive, he could at least take them home, like instead of just fucking around, you know.
Yeah.
And he told her to sit down and shut the fuck up.
Oh, nice.
Then turned on Morgan, who was his girlfriend at the time, and their relationship was super rocky. He was abusive and he was an asshole. And like a lot of people in abusive relationships, she kept going back. You know, she would get away and then she just would get sucked back in. So at this point, things were pretty rocky.
I thought he
Um,
was married.
Paul?
Yeah.
No, he's only like 21.
Oh, I'm so confused. There's so many people in this story.
So Alec was married to Maggie, their mom and dad's of Paul. Paul's their
Okay.
son.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
So he turned on Morgan, his girlfriend, Paul, and asked why she wasn't supporting him because like everybody was yelling at him and she wasn't like saying anything because she agreed.
Mhm.
And she said, "You're acting crazy." And he said, "You know what's crazy? Your father not making enough money to support his family." And then he spit on her and slapped her. Yeah. Oh,
My
hi,
God.
kitty. We have so many visitors.
Yeah, and my microphone has decided to just like call it quits today.
Oh, no.
Like it's just not sitting properly because we have it kind of. Oh God, that made it worse.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's um and at this point her friends had kind of assumed she was being abused, but like she would never talk about it. And I guess this is the first time that he really like did it in front of everybody, and they were kind of taken aback, I guess. And apparently they did see the bridge coming, but not in time to do anything about it. And right before they hit the bridge, unfortunately, one of the guys told his girlfriend that he loved her. Anthony grabbed Mallory and pulled her into him. He said he heard a scream and then he was knocked out of the boat. So basically, there was two, four, six people on the boat. All of them except for Connor and Paul were knocked out of the boat. Um,
Die?
huh?
Did people die?
So several of them swam to the bank, but Mallory never made it.
Oh.
They were screaming for her and searching for her, but they never found her.
Oh.
So Connor immediately called 911. When the police arrived, Deputy Sheriff Steve Domino said Anthony was agitated, which I mean, his girlfriend's missing and he just got in a boat wreck. So um, he said he actually tried to rush through the police officer to get to Paul because Paul was smiling.
Ew.
And Anthony screamed at Paul, "You're fucking smiling like it's fucking funny. My fucking girlfriend is gone. I hope you rot in fucking hell."
I thought that Mallory was Paul's girlfriend. I'm so confused.
Sorry. No, Mallory and Anthony were together. Morgan is
Okay.
Paul's girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
And
They're
then
all
there's
A's and
Connor.
M's.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's just there's so
There's so
much.
many names. And I'm glad you don't understand English yet because I just dropped a lot of F bombs. The whole time, everybody was kind of getting looked at from the ambulance. Morgan had her hand smashed. Connor had hit something and like he had a huge gash in his jaw, and I think like his jaw was broken. And the only thing Paul was worried about was finding a phone to call his grandpa.
Oh.
When he finally got into the ambulance and made the phone call to his grandpa, he blamed Connor. He said
Oh
Connor
my
was
God.
driving.
What a dipshit.
Yeah. And this is so crazy to me. When Morgan, who was Paul's girlfriend, and Paul's the jerk,
Thank you.
got to the hospital, when Morgan's mom got to the hospital, one of the nurses who was changing Morgan's IV said to Morgan's mom, "I'm not supposed to say this, but Paul is a nasty drunk and you need to get her away from him."
Whoa.
Another nurse came up to Morgan's mom and said, "Mom to mom, nurse to nurse, you need to keep her away from him."
Oh wow.
How bad do you have to be for two nurses to say something like that?
Yeah.
So, of course, the Murdochs got there, like the whole Murdoch family, Alec, the dad, Randolph, the grandpa, because they're all still lawyers, they're all still practicing. So they all got there. Um, and they told police that they couldn't interview Paul because he was too drunk.
Oh great.
They called Connor's parents and they told them that Connor was driving and
Oh
not
my
to worry,
gosh.
they would take care of him, Jessica.
They're gonna go like bring him out back and shoot him? Like what the fuck?
Like, I think as in like take care of him as be his lawyer, because he was
Oh,
the one
okay.
driving, so don't worry. And this isn't the first time that this whole Murdaugh family lied. So Morgan said that they were driving down the road one night a while ago, her and Paul. Paul was driving, and I think he had been drinking, and they crashed his truck, and it like rolled over. And she said there were guns, because this is the South, so he had tons of guns in there. There was tons of beer cans, and she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna call 911. And he called his dad, and again the whole Murdoch family showed up and like hid the guns, took care of the beer cans, turned the car over, and were like, why did you call the police? You're going to get our son in trouble. So this
Oh my
isn't the first
God.
time they've covered up something that Paul has done.
Well, of course not, right?
Yeah,
It seems fairly typical of young kids with that kind of money.
exactly. And Alec found Connor and whispered in his ear to just be quiet and don't say anything.
That's rude.
Yeah. So they were all ready to pin this on Connor.
Well, and the thing is like, wouldn't you think that the rich kid would get off easier than
Yeah. But they
the
don't
other
care about the
kid?
other kid. They just don't want their kid to get in trouble,
I guess, yeah.
you know?
That's
So the
rude.
Murdochs then went to work trying to represent all of the kids. So basically, they could control the situation and control what was being said.
Jeez.
Mr. Randolph, who was the grandpa, went up to one of the parents of the kids, and she said, hey, have you heard anything about Mallory? He said, who? And she said,
What?
Mallory Beach. And he said, oh, I'm pretty sure we know how that's going to end up.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he was correct. They could not find Mallory. Police brought in rescue boats, divers, helicopters. And get this. So Mallory's mom asked to go down to the scene to see it, to like see the boat, to see where it happened.
Yeah.
And Anthony, her boyfriend, Mallory's boyfriend, had also asked to go down to the scene so he could help look for her as well. And both of them were denied by police. They said, no, you can't go down there. That's not allowed.
That's freaking stupid.
But a few hours later, the Murdochs were able to go down there and drive to the scene.
Of
And
course they were.
Alec's brother was allowed to tow the boat out, which was a crime scene, so shouldn't have been touched.
Yeah, what are we in like the 1500s again?
Right. So 3 nights after the accident, this is so bizarre. Alec calls Connor's dad and says, come down, we need to talk. So Alec goes to meet him, or I'm sorry, Connor goes to meet Alec. Alec turns his phone off and puts it in his truck and says, I don't want you to think I'm recording anything. Then he tells Connor's dad to like pick a room. I don't want you to feel set up, so you can pick what room we need.
Oh my goodness.
So weird. Um, and he said to Connor's dad, I need to know where you stand. I can't mourn the loss of Mallory because I'm worried about what might happen to my son. And Connor's dad said, Alec, I can't think of anything but the loss of that child.
Yeah, literally.
And this is so sad. Connor said that he had heard rumors of the Murdochs making people disappear. So he sat down crying to his dad and said, are the Murdochs going to kill me?
Oh my God.
I know. Unfortunately, 8 days later, they found Mallory's body.
Oh.
She had died from blunt force trauma to the head and drowning. So basically, when she flew out of the boat, she hit her head, got knocked out, and drowned.
Yeah.
And this whole time, the family was feeling like this was kind of a cover up happening because Mallory was wearing an Apple Watch. So they should have been able to ping her and figure out where her body was pretty quickly. Police also had a lot of ties to the Murdochs. The DNR agents that were there And the DNR agent that was on scene was really good friends with Alec Murdoch.
Mm-hmm.
And the officer that was in the hospital interviewing the kids was really good friends with the Murdochs. And
Stop.
they're on, like, when police first got to the scene, there's audio of Anthony saying Paul killed his girlfriend, that Paul was driving, but that audio isn't in evidence anywhere.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. And they told the officers who was driving at the scene, like all the kids told the officers, but the officers never questioned Paul. And not one call was made to Mallory Beach's family when this happened to tell them that she was
What?
driving. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. The police and the DNR agents called the Murdochs several times, but never called Mallory Beach's family. They didn't
Wow.
find out that what had happened until another parent called them. And in fact,
Wow.
Anthony's mom asked, hey, should we call the Beaches? I have the phone number. Like, I don't want to be the one to make that call, though. Like, are you going to call them? And police were like, well, we shouldn't do that right now because, we don't have enough information and we don't want them coming down here and, making things crazy or whatever. Yeah.
Jeez. Are
So,
you serious?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's disgusting.
Yeah. So Connor's family had hired a lawyer, obviously, and based on the injuries, and they actually hired a biomechanical engineer to recreate like where everybody would have been sitting based on their injuries and how they left the boat. And after this recreation, it was shown that there was no possible way Connor could have been driving. Not to mention
Oh,
all the witnesses saying that Connor was not driving, that it was Paul.
yeah, good.
Um, and the Beach family did sue the Murdochs for a wrongful death, claiming that Maggie, his mom, Paul's mom, knew that Paul was drunk when he went boating, and that his older brother, they called him Buster, had given
Oh,
Paul his ID to buy alcohol.
oh,
So they were suing for that. And a little
good.
less than 3 months later, Paul was charged with 3 felony counts of boating under the influence, causing death and serious injury. But he was never arrested for it. He got to just kind of hang out until his indictment. In his mugshot when he got there, he got to wear a polo shirt, like a regular polo shirt. Like I said, wasn't ever arrested, didn't have to spend the night in jail, didn't have to do any of that. And obviously, he was out on bail. Like once he was arraigned, they're like, okay, well, here's your bail. And they had enough money to get him out. So he never had to wear a jumpsuit, nothing, just living his life while he was awaiting trial.
Oh, great. How nice.
Yeah. So he
I have
moved.
a question.
Yes.
Can you see me?
No.
Okay. My screen is black and I
Oh,
don't know what my cat did to it.
okay. Well, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Um, so Paul, during this time while he was awaiting trial, he moved into his parents. They had like a log cabin he moved into. He was still partying. He was still drinking. He got pulled over for speeding as well. And so people were like, he's not taking this seriously. But
Sorry.
no, it's okay. But Anthony, who was Mallory's boyfriend, who was incredibly mad at Paul, in the interview said that knowing Paul, he was hurting and he was scared. So I think that says a lot coming from someone who has so much reason to hate him. So,
Yeah.
take with it what you will. He was partying still, but Anthony said he was probably hurting and scared.
Oh.
But Paul never had his day in court because he was murdered before he could get there.
Oh, jeez.
During this time that Paul's case was working through the court prior to his murder, his older brother was kicked out of the University of South Carolina for plagiarism. His mom found out that some of their bills were not getting paid, and she even hired a forensic accountant to help them get back on track.
Oh,
There
wow.
were
A
also,
forensic accountant. What is
yeah,
that?
I don't know, but it sounds fancy.
Yeah.
There were also rumors that she had visited a divorce attorney.
Oh.
So, did all of this tension and issues somehow lead to the murders of Paul and Maggie? We'll find out next week.
Ooh. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So, I mean, we still have the two murders to look at. They
Oh,
had
wait.
a car crash and a housekeeper's deadly fall that we'll talk about next week.
Ugh!
Yeah, there's still so much more to this story. We're back, and as you can see, we have new outfits on. So our recording last time was like a hot mess. There was computer problems, my baby was crying. It was just a hot mess. So we decided to stop and start over today with Jessica's story. So hopefully things will be a little bit smoother running. I don't have a baby here.
I
And
don't have a cat.
okay, perfect. And her microphone's fixed. It fell off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I it was like 10:30, almost 10:30 last night, and I look at Kyle and I'm like, microphone, fix it. Because I am not able to fix it because we have it like jimmy rigged with like clamps and stuff
yeah.
with like pieces of wood attaching it to our like to my desk. So it's
I need
very
I need to do that because mine doesn't like stand up, but mine's really like careful. Like you have to be careful with it too.
yeah. And oh, I have a stupid story.
Oh, okay.
I thought my cat broke my laptop because yesterday when we were recording, my screen went black, which is why I don't have video for a little bit. And I literally tried everything today. I am like, I hard rebooted it twice and it would pop up with my Lenovo symbol,
Mhm.
but then it would just be a blank screen. It would just be black. And
Oh,
I'm like, how does that even happen? Like,
what happened?
yeah, apparently the the brightness was all the way down.
Oh, she sat on that. That's funny.
Yeah. And it goes like from visible to shut off black. So like you go down to like the lowest setting before the screen goes black and it's
Yeah.
very visible. Like it's like a very hard contrast. So
Silly kitty.
yeah. So I'm like pushing buttons like the the F control with all the little buttons on the top and I'm
Yeah.
trying everything and it's not working and then I'm like, "Oh, I wonder."
Yeah. So if you go to YouTube and watch our recordings, you'll see a little visit from a kitty yesterday. Or yeah, it was yesterday when we
Yeah,
recorded.
it was Freya, yeah.
Yeah. You'll also see part of my daughter. I'm gonna cover her face up, just people who have kids understand, but so you'll see part of her.
Yeah, it was a hot mess. We're so sorry.
It was.
And please go to Spotify and rate us.
Yeah.
Like rate us nicely because
Rate us nicely.
rate us nicely, especially on Apple, please. Anyways, so that's our dilemma. That's why we're in different clothes. And yeah, so I'm gonna get started.
Yay. Who are you doing again? Remind me.
Blanche Monnier.
Okay.
Yes. And she was a French socialite. She
Ooh.
and she was born on March 1st, 1849.
Oh, we're going old school.
We're going old school. And she was born into a traditional and well-respected middle-class family. Together with her brother Marcel, parents Charles Émile and Madame Louise Monnier, she grew up in an affluent area at 21 Rue de la Visitation. So,
Oh, you're very sexy when you speak French.
it's funny. There was a guy that I used to you know, and
Jessica's mom, earmuffs.
And he would always like he always wanted me to speak French to him because it turned him on.
It's a sexy language.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that
I
was
learned Spanish, which can also be sexy, but not the way I spoke it. And some German, which is not sexy.
no. I used to be fluent in French and then I used to do really well with Spanish, but
Nice.
since getting out of school and
You never
don't
use
use
it.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, German is not a sexy language.
No, no. It's
You
hard
guys,
too.
it
Like,
is. You guys just sound angry.
yeah, like and the way some of their words are, it's very like throaty
Yeah.
and like in the back of your throat. And but then like I don't know, it's hard. Like I went to Germany and the teacher I went with, his last name was, we always just said Kerner, but that's not how you say it. And the way he would say it in German, because he was from Germany, was so much different. But like I could not do it. Like I tried and tried and tried, and I could not get it. It was like just the way he moved his mouth was just different than
Yeah.
anything I've done in English.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
Oh
it was
gosh.
it was it was hard. But anyway, back to your
Yeah.
story.
Back to the sexy language. The family even received the Committee of Good Deeds Award, which
Oh.
was presented to residents who displayed the highest of qualities. And her father, Charles Emile, served as the director of the neighborhood arts center. So, getting this groundwork in.
Mhm, mhm.
Blanche had struggled with anorexia in her teenage years and didn't
Oh.
always see eye to eye with her mother. In a weird letter that the Attorney General of Paris received one day in May 1901, it was claimed that a wealthy family in the city was hiding a dark secret. The Attorney General was so alarmed by the contents of this letter that was unsigned, by the way, so
Oh.
like anonymous,
Yeah.
that he decided to look into it right away. And like he's a busy guy. So the letter read, Monsieur Attorney General, I have the honor to inform you of an exceptionally serious occurrence. I speak of a spinster who was locked up. What?
Spinster. So rude.
Eh, it's a horrible story.
Oh, okay. So just buckle up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I speak of a spinster who was locked up in Madame Monnier's house, half starved and living on a putrid litter for the past 25 years. In
I
a
think I've heard
word,
of this.
in her own filth.
Oh my, yeah, I think I've heard of this. Now that okay, keep going.
Yeah. No, I'm just gonna stop.
Stop right there. We're
Ashley,
done.
Ashley heard the story. We can
We're
go
done.
home. The rich Monnier family had a clean reputation, so the police must have had some reservations when they showed up at their house. Madame Monnier was well known in high society in Paris for her charity endeavors. In fact, she had won a prize for her selfless service to the neighborhood.
Oh.
Her son, Marcel, was a bright student who is now a reputable attorney.
I'm gonna say a Republican. I was like, oh no, poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Blanche, the stunning young daughter of the Monniers, however, had not been seen in nearly 25 years. The young socialite, whom acquaintances described as extremely sweet and good natured, had abruptly disappeared in her prime just as high society suitors had started to approach her. The family continued living their lives as usual, and no one gave this bizarre occurrence much attention. So sad.
So like nobody noticed that all of a sudden she just disappeared.
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Yeah. And just fair warning, it gets really gnarly from here.
Okay.
So sorry. The cops conducted a routine investigation of the estate and found nothing unusual until they smelled something foul coming from one of the upstairs bedrooms.
Oh no, if you can smell it walking into the house.
It was discovered after some examination that the door had been padlocked shut.
Oh no.
Unaware of what welcomed them inside, the cops broke into the room. The solitary window in the room was boarded over and covered by heavy curtains, leaving the space completely dark. One of the officers quickly gave the order to break open the window since the stink in the dim chamber was so overpowering. The police officers noticed that the foul smell came from the decaying food remnants that covered the floor around a dilapidated bed to which an underweight woman was shackled. Ugh, it's horrible.
That is awful.
Like, could you even imagine?
Well, and because I remember this story now, I'm going to talk like I don't remember it. And I'm going to say, I
Okay.
would think that what that does to you mentally, like she would have had to have been insane by then.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
no light, that smell that you're smelling all the time, shackled to a bed, never to leave for how long has this been? 25 years, you said?
25 years. So she's 50 years old now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you could come out of that sane.
Yeah, awful.
Oh,
So, da, da, da. One officer that was there indicated as soon as light entered the room, we noticed in the back, lying on a bed, her head and body covered by a repulsively filthy blanket, a woman identified as Mademoiselle Blanche Monnier. The unfortunate woman was lying completely naked on a rotten straw mattress. All around her was formed a sort of crust made from excrement, fragments of meat, vegetables, fish, and rotten bread. We also saw oyster shells and bugs running across Mademoiselle Monier's bed.
oh,
Blanche Monnier had not seen the sun in more than 20 years. Since her enigmatic disappearance 25 years prior, she had been kept entirely naked and shackled to her bed.
why naked?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's so weird.
They probably didn't want to clothe her. So it was probably they put her in there with clothes and then the clothes just kind of
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right.
deteriorated.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I mean, the blanket, right, was deteriorated.
yeah.
So the now middle aged woman was covered in her own filth and surrounded by the vermin that had been drawn in by the rotting scraps, unable to even get up to relieve herself.
Ugh.
Blanche had been there for 25 years, but the horrified policeman could not stay in the room for more than a few minutes due to the overwhelming stench of dirt and rotting.
Oh my God.
Immediately, she was rushed to the hospital, and her mother and brother were arrested at the same time.
Good. Well, and I'm wondering too how awful that was when they whipped open the shades and she hadn't seen sun in 20 years. That probably hurt so bad.
Oh, yeah. Like, you think of the people, like the prisoners that go into solitary confinement for like a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
And
seems
they,
like a week is like, oh my God.
yeah,
Yeah.
25 years.
Wow.
While she was severely underweight when she was rescued, around 55 pounds, hospital officials claimed that she was extremely aware and expressed her delight at being able to breathe fresh air once more.
Oh.
And her entire terrible tale slowly started to come into focus.
Oh. I can't believe
In
that she was still with it, you know?
Yeah, and like not just Yeah, it's crazy. It's awesome that she was able to like speak still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, she had found a suitor all those years before, but sadly, he was an older, less wealthy lawyer rather than the young, wealthy aristocrat. Shit.
Aristocats.
That her family had hoped she would marry. They hoped she'd marry a cat. Blanche refused to choose a better marriage despite her mother's advice.
Doesn't sound like it was much of advice, more as an order.
Yes. Her mother was so disgusted at the fact that Blanche wanted to marry someone that was penniless, so she kept plotting against her.
What a psycho.
Yeah. Madame Monnier punished her daughter by locking her in a padlocked chamber until she submitted to her wishes. Years passed, but Blanche resisted giving up. She was kept confided to her dungeon even after her lover passed away, which was 9 years into her imprisonment.
Why didn't her lover contact the authorities or anything?
I will get to that.
Oh, okay.
And she was kept there with only rats and lice for companionship.
Can you imagine the evil that has to be inside you to be able to do something like this to your own child? I mean, to anybody, but
Yeah,
let alone your own child.
your own child. Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
The
Ugh.
household staff and her brother refused to assist her, claiming that they were too afraid of the mistress of the house to take the chance. So, Ashley's burning question: how do they keep it a secret for so long without raising suspicion? Louise and her son Marcel pretended that Blanche had passed away, and they were in mourning in order to allay any doubts or concerns. Even though Blanche's friends and lawyer suitor were curious as to what had happened to her, her mother and brother remained steadfast in their claim that she had suffered a horrible death.
And back then, it wasn't like it is now, where there's like officers involved and the medical examiner, and yeah.
Yeah. When Madame Monnier was questioned by the police, she asserted that Blanche was to blame for this abuse. She asserted that her daughter had a history of mental illness and had aggressive inclinations. Her son Marcel agreed with these allegations and claimed his sister had every opportunity to leave the torture room, but decided to stay.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Blanche's rescue was never fully explained, but one tale contends that a servant accidentally exposed a family secret to her boyfriend, who was so appalled he immediately contacted the attorney general.
Good for him.
An irate mob assembled outside the Monnier home because of widespread outrage, which caused Madame Monnier to have a heart attack.
Oh,
Yeah.
did she
15,
die?
15 days after her daughter was freed, she passed away.
No, I want her to get some fucking like. I want her daughter to get some
Justice.
justice. Like she needs to go to prison, and she needs that. Oh, that makes me so mad.
I know. I'm pretty sure her brother was let off too. So, after spending decades in her homemade prison, Blanche Monnier experienced psychological trauma that persisted.
I
And
bet.
he and she was diagnosed with an array of disorders.
I can imagine.
And I'm going to list them.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So, content warning. These disorders included schizophrenia, of course, coprophilia, which is the intense interest and pleasure in feces and defecation, especially as a source of sexual arousal.
Oh, poor thing.
Anorexia nervosa and exhibitionism, which involves exposing the genitals to become sexually excited or having a strong desire to be observed by other people during sexual activity. And that makes you think what else happened to her when she was in that room?
Yeah, because those are both very like sex driven and that, yeah.
Like, and how would that happen if you were by yourself? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand the coprophilia, but not the exhibitionism, because somebody would have had to be there to watch her do those things,
Yeah.
you know? So, anyways, she spent the remainder of her life in a French sanitarium before passing away in 1913 at the age of 64.
Oh, so she only lived outside for
Like
14
14
years.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I used the crime wire and all that's interesting.
Oh yeah, I needed to give my sources. I'll get that in a second. But um, wow.
Yeah. I know it was like a shorty, but I wanted to do her for a while and
Yeah.
there wasn't like a ton of information on her. So,
Well, how could there be? One, it was so long ago, and two, the person who did it died like 15 days later, so they probably didn't get a ton of information, and she probably
yeah.
didn't want to talk about it except to hopefully therapists. But back then, who knows?
Yeah.
And I don't know about the brother.
Yeah, he was a lawyer, right? So I'm assuming he got off and he knew how to talk his way through.
Yeah, because I would say like my first thought is, well, he was probably a kid when this started, but then he grew
Mm,
up. You know,
yeah. So,
ugh, that's
yeah,
awful.
it's atrocious.
Yeah, poor thing. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
25 years.
25 years.
Because you think like at first, when it first starts happening, a year or two, she's probably like, this can't go on like this much longer.
Yep. Yep. I don't I don't know how she got through it, but
Yeah, it's awful.
I'm glad she did. Yeah.
Well, on
Anyways.
that wonderful note, oh yeah, my sources were the New York Post, Washington Post, I think People Magazine. I think I had an article from them. They had like a whole timeline of it. So
Nice.
I wanted to throw that in there. And then the Netflix documentary, obviously. So
Perfect.
yeah. Do you have any jokes?
I do.
Oh, good, because I never do.
I have cow jokes.
Ooh.
Um that's funny. Uh, what happens when you try talking to a cow?
I don't know what.
Everything just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. Stupid.
What do you call a cow that can't make milk?
I don't know what.
A milk dud.
Yeah. A milk dud.
How did the farmer find the missing cow?
I don't know.
He tracked her down.
Oh. Cow is one of the noises my son knows really well. So he's like, "What's a cow saying?" Moo.
Aw. I love when I ask Evie what sound a monster makes or what sound a dinosaur makes.
Uh-huh.
And she goes, "Rawr." Like with their hands just like rawr.
I was trying to
Funniest
get him to
thing.
say it on video today so I could send it to my parents. And I was
Yeah.
like, Oliver, well, no, I was trying to get him to do the cat because he meows and it's really cute. And I
Yeah.
said, Oliver, what noise does a cat make? And he just kind of sat, because the video was on him, so he knew. He just kind of like
Yeah.
sat there, and I was like, what noise does a cat make? And he didn't do it. So I went, meow. And he literally goes, meow. Like that TikTok, you know? Have you seen that one?
No.
It's a cat, and he just goes, meow.
So funny.
And I was like, well, that's all you get, Grandma and Grandpa.
Oh God, that's funny. All right, well, let's shut down this shit show for tonight.
All right. Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And like I said before, rate and review us.
Yes,
Thanks.
please. We'd really appreciate it. The more reviews we get, the more we can reach a more wide audience. So
Yeah, and we have something fun coming up. So
we do.
stay tuned.
Yes. We thank you for turning in. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week.
Bye.
Bye.